Well, hello there, and welcome to my shop, such as it is. I am going to throw you a curveball today, and I'm actually going to do a woodworking project in one of my woodworking videos. I know, try and deal with the shock. I'm going to build a replacement for the coat rack we have upstairs by the back door, which I might put a picture of right here if I can remember to do it. Now, the first problem I face is I need to rip down some 8-foot long boards. This is like 1 1/8 square, so I'm going to do 1 1/8 that way, and that's going to be the legs, basically. That's going to be the main frame of the thing. The problem is I really don't have the facilities to rip a board this length. The table saw absolutely will not work for this, as much as I'd like to use it. First of all, I would need 16 feet, 8 before and 8 after of clearance, which this space is a little tight. But there's no way I'm going to be able to keep the board stable on the table saw. If I had one of the big console table saws, maybe, but not on this one. So the table saw is out. I have 2 tools in my possession that I could potentially use to rip this down. The first one is a handsaw. I am notoriously bad at cutting straight lines with handsaws, and there's no way over 8 feet I'm going to keep a good straight line. So that's out. The other one is my circular saw. Again, I have trouble running straight lines with the circular saw, and I'd like to use a guide, which I do have. I do have a guide track that I can use, but as you can see, this is not 8 feet long. So what to do? Well, I came up with an idea that could be very dangerous. If you can't bring the circular saw to the guide, bring the guide to the circular saw. I made this. It's going to bolt right onto the bottom of the saw. I measured over 1 1/8, and I'm going to try sawing the boards with this. Wish me luck. Here we are. We're all set up and ready to give this a try. I have sacrificial scrap wood underneath the full length. I'm going to cut on the outside, and then I'm going to flip the board over and cut the other one on the outside. That way, I know I have at least 3 good surfaces, even if my cut isn't perfectly square. Here we go. I've lost it. Well, I fucked that one up. Something wrong with my saw? I may have screwed up the saw. Looks like the blade might be wobbling. I may have bent the blade. Let's take a look. See, that's the good thing about this channel. You get the fails and the successes. Definitely one of the problems I had there was I had to stop and adjust as I was going. And I should have shut the saw completely off to do that. Should have let go of the trigger. But I can definitely see where the blade was flexing. And it's hot. All right. I mean, it was working good for a minute there. I think the concept is good. Possibly just the execution that was failing. I mean, if this doesn't work, I do have alternatives. I could potentially cross-cut the pieces into smaller sections, cut those sections down, and then joint those together. That's an option. If I have to, I can always just get like pre-cut lumber. That's not really the route I wanted to go. But it's a learning experience. What can I say? You can see here the blade was flexing. It's unplugged right now. Plug it in for a second and see what's going on. It's sounding a little rough. Feels like there's some wobble in there. Possible that I smoked a bearing. I mean, this is a cheap circular saw. It's not like I spent a lot of money on it or anything. I mean, basically everything I was planning on doing today is kind of hinging on making these cuts. Blade is definitely overheated there. Like a lot. Let me see if I've got a different blade I can try in here. I mean, I think that was the only crosscut or rip blade that I had. Let's see what else we got. Well, that's the blade that came with it. Those are smaller. Well, I got this Craftsman blade. Pretty sure this is the blade that came with it. Oh, no, it's not. That's too small. Oh, is this? Harder. These are the blades for the table saw. These are the blades for the circular saw. All right. And here's a 24 tooth rip blade. Let's give this one a try. I mean, it is designed to rip, so. That's an awful lot of noise in there, free spinning. Yeah. And look, there's a lot of. See, there's free play there. I don't know if you can or not. Yeah, I think I smoked a Baron. Let's try doing a quick cross cut and see if it goes through this all right. All right, well, I may still need to get a new saw, but I cut through that without any problems. Let's look under the board. All right, it was digging into the sacrificial boards, but it wasn't going through. That's what they're supposed to be doing. All right, maybe it was just me. Maybe I just completely fucked that up. I have some extra wood, and I can always, once I cut the edge piece off, I can always lock these down, square that off, and make other cuts. So it's not a complete waste. So all right, round 2 fight. Just got to make sure if I need to really adjust my position that I'm stopping the saw entirely. And I know, yeah, I'm old, but I'm going to throw on my knee pads as well, just to make it a little easier to be down on my knees and moving down the length of the wood. I mean, when I was 20, I could have kneeled down on a concrete floor, not even thought about it. But for some strange reason, I'm not 20 anymore. Which ain't going to stop me from doing, by the way. Just means I may have to do a little differently. That's all. Means I gotta throw on some knee pads instead of just kneeling on bare cement. That's okay. It's the doing that matters, not the how you do. You should always do however you can do, whatever you can do. It may not be what other people do. It may not be what you did when you were younger. But it's the doing that's important. You just don't want to ever stop doing. Oh, duh. Gotta put the fence back on. I mean, aside from the spot where I overheated my blade, the thing seems to be working all right. Yes, I unplugged the saw to put this back on. I may be a numpty, but I'm not a complete numpty. And I'm aware that using this fence also keeps the blade guard retracted. But I think it's fine. Normally, I would strongly advise against doing anything that locks your blade guard back like that. But I've got this whole big panel underneath, so I don't think there's any real danger. Any more than using a saw like this is just an inherently dangerous activity. That's why it's always important to take proper precautions. Always respect the power of the machine. Once you get lazy or distracted and you just stop respecting that power, that's when bad things happen. You get complacent. You do 1,000 cuts, and on the 1,001st cut, you lose a finger. And I don't want to be that guy. All right. Just let it spin up for a second there. Try and clear the chips out. Uh-oh. Maybe it's just overheating and I need to let it cool a little bit. All right, let's see if we can find the turf there again. If you really slowly past that area. Cut it through. Going forward very slowly. Whoops. Note to self, don't ever put the saw down while the blade's still spinning. Well, there we go. Despite that jam up back there, we got through. It's a little bit of a rough cut, but this is certainly serviceable. I can sand this down, and like I said, I know I've got three good surfaces. So I think the key is go slow. I'm going to cut the other ones now, and I'll get back to you in a bit. Wow. Okay, then. Here we are. I've got 4 pieces that are nicely squared on the ends. The saw cuts I made are a little rough. Actually, very rough in some spots, as you can see. But I can sand this all down. This is not the end of the world. And as I mentioned, I know I've got 3 good sides on each of these. So, that was a little challenging, a little physically demanding, but we got it done. And Frankensaw did its job. Like I said, the rest of that lumber I'm gonna cross cut with Frankensaw first, down to 20 or 30-inch pieces, and then I will rip those on the table saw, because that will be a lot easier than trying to rip all of that down into strips like this. So I guess we'll probably see you in the next video. I think I'm going to take care of that off camera, because it'll be kind of boring, and we'll see where we go next. And so the first piece, I may or may not remember to put a diagram up here of what I plan on building. The first piece I'm going to do is the lower piece. It's going to be a frame with rails for like resting shoes on, and then I'm going to dimension everything off of that. It's supposed to be 20 by 30, but I want to make that first, And then if that's off by a hair, I can dimension everything else accordingly. So see you in the next video, or maybe later in this one, depending on how long it is.